Welcome to Vacuum Wars and to our review of the Roborock Saros Z70. It's the first robot vacuum on the market that has a mechanical arm that pops out of the top when it sees objects that need to be moved out of the way, but it's also Roborock's new flagship robot vacuum mop combo with all the latest bells and whistles for a robot vacuum. We bought one for ourselves and have been testing it in various ways over the past few weeks. And in this video, I'll go over the pros and cons, and at the end, reveal if the Roborock Saros Z70 ranked on the Vacuum Wars Top 20 list on our website, and if we think this new arm feature is a fad or a must-have feature. So links in the description, and let's get started. Let's jump right into talking about the new Omni-Grip Mechanical Arm. This is a 5-axis arm that, depending on the settings you have in the app, will automatically come out when the robot sees with its front-mounted camera certain types of objects that it has been trained to recognize. The way it works is that you first define two different areas on the map in the app. One is where you want it to put objects that it finds, and the other where you want it to put the slippers that it finds. The area with the objects can be used with or without Roborock's included container. Then, while it's vacuuming, it will find and put away the objects and then continue vacuuming. Currently, the only types of items that can be identified and grabbed fall into 3 categories: clumps, fabrics, and shoes. Future plans, according to Roborock, will focus on optimizing those existing items and expanding on the types of shoes that they optimize. We tested this in various ways. For example, we did several runs with various types of slippers and shoes. We also did runs with paper balls and fabrics. We also did several tests with the manual option, where you can use the controls and camera in the app, and you can pretty much pick up anything that you want as long as it's under 300 grams, which is a little over half a pound. What we found is that it was pretty hit and miss, meaning that sometimes it would pick the objects up, or sometimes it wouldn't. Sometimes it would put the object in the right place, sometimes it wouldn't. With the slippers, it's important to know that right now they really are just programmed to see certain types of slippers, what you might call slides. As I said, they have plans to do other types of shoes in the future, but we tested it with those other types now and found that it currently did not have very good success with them. We also tried it with other types of objects that weren't in its library, and it just doesn't seem to recognize them. So it really is limited to the kinds of objects that have been specifically trained by Roborock for it to pick up, which, as we mentioned, is pretty limited right now. And therefore, I feel like their claim that you can forget pre-cleaning because it will pick up stuff for you is just not going to be true in almost any case. Even if you only had socks and clumps of paper and slides in your house, it would still only work about half the time. This aspect of this robot vacuum is really for early adopters who are interested in trying new things out, in my opinion, but will be of limited practical use. One really cool thing that Roborock is doing, but could be confusing, is that they've announced that you can train the obstacle avoidance system on custom objects. This is something I'm very excited about. I think it's the future of obstacle avoidance to be able to train it on custom objects, but it should be noted that it's only for the obstacle avoidance system. There's no plans to be able to train the Z70 to recognize custom objects to pick up with its arm. One of the big pros with the Roborock Saros Z70, though, was its mopping ability. First of all, there are lots of great mopping features on the robot itself. For example, it uses 2 spinning mop pads that can both lift up 22 millimeters to avoid getting carpets wet. It can also leave those pads behind at the base when vacuuming carpets to further ensure that they do not get carpets wet. It also has an automatically extending mop pad for better edge coverage, and in our dried-on stain mopping test, it was extremely good. In fact, it got the second best score we've seen, a 139, and it left behind only 0.7 grams of water, which is below average, which is good, which means that its combined mopping score was incredible. Better than the Saros 10R, and certainly better than the average robot vacuum mop that we've tested. Another big pro is its multifunctional dock, which not only empties the robot's dustbin into a 2.7-liter disposable bag, but it also uses 176-degree hot water washing of the mop pads, as well as hot water bin self-cleaning. It also dries the mop pads for a more sanitary experience. It has a detergent reservoir, and it functioned well in our tests. The hardware on the robot itself was good. It has a slim height of 3.14 inches, the same as the 10R, which allows it to get under a lot more furniture than the typical 4-inch robot vacuums. It has an automatically extending side brush for better corner coverage, which worked well in our tests. It uses that side brush along with its newly designed free flow main brush to sweep up debris on the surfaces of hard floors and carpets, and like most Roborocks, it did exceptionally well at this most basic task. Just like the Roborock 10R, it also has the lifting mechanism where a wheel up front will lift the robot in order to cross high thresholds. Roborock says it can get up to 40 millimeters if the threshold is tiered, more like 30 millimeters if it's not. Another big pro with the Z70 was obstacle avoidance. As far as I can tell, it uses the same basic 3D time-of-flight system with a camera referred to as starsight navigation that the 10R uses, including the Vertibeam, which is a lateral structured light system. And in our obstacle avoidance tests, the Z70 did amazing, scoring 22 out of a possible 24, which is much higher than average. Technically, the score was a little lower than the 10R, though we suspect that it's a margin of error issue, and that if we ran this test many more times, it would have evened out with the 10R. The final pro I'll mention is the app. Roborock makes possibly one of the best apps in the business. It has every feature you could think of. It has its own virtual voice assistant, the new Smart Plan 2.0, which adapts to your home's environment. It has every kind of control over almost all the robot vacuum systems or auto-empty bin systems. It has multiple floor plans, virtual barriers, lots of pet-related features such as video call and cruise to check on your pets, which you can either schedule or do manually. Before I get to the negative stuff, I want to talk about some things that were just average. And for me, that was its navigation efficiency and battery life. Its official battery life is 180 minutes, a little higher than average, and the battery efficiency in our tests was also just a touch above average. Same thing with the estimated square feet per charge. As far as how fast it covered the area and how well it covered the area, it was almost exactly at the average amount. So not great, but not terrible either. Moving on to the cons, which mostly had to do with its performance. For example, though it had a lot of official suction power like the 10R, also like the 10R, it had lower than average suction measured at the intake, though its airflow was right at the average amount. But it was in the practical performance tests that really hurt its score, such as with the carpet deep clean test, where we see how good they are at picking up deeply embedded debris like sand in carpets, where it was significantly below average, ranking around 114th in that test. Another carpet-related score, the 2.5-inch flattened pet hair pickup test on carpet, where it was also significantly below average. Same thing with the crevice pickup test. Also, despite having a newly designed main brush with a new active hair removal system, at least in the test that we did with this, it was below average with resisting hair tangles. Another thing was its very small internal dust bin at only 180 milliliters, which is the smallest dustbin size I've ever seen on a robot vacuum. Obviously, this is because they had to make room because of the grabber arm, and there just wasn't enough real estate for a larger bin. So, even though the Roborock Saros Z70 got a ton of extra points for its new Omni-Grip Arm and other top-of-the-line features, as well as its excellent mopping ability and obstacle avoidance scores, some of the practical performance metrics really ended up hurting its score. And after adding up all the numbers, it's currently ranking only about number 12 on the Vacuum Wars Top 20 list, though that number will probably change by the time this video comes out. So, while I have high hopes for grabber arms like the Omni-Grip in the future, I do think that at least for now, it is more of a gimmick than a truly helpful tool. Early adopters will love it, everybody else will probably benefit from the Roborock Edge or the Roborock Saros 10R, which have many of the same features as the Z70, but at a cheaper price and better performance where it counts. Links in the description, and be sure to subscribe to Vacuum Wars before you leave. Thanks for watching. All of the links in the description are updated regularly to reflect our current favorite vacuums in multiple categories. You'll also find links to the Vacuum Wars website in the description, where we have more detailed lists of our favorite products, like our new Top 20 Robot Vacuums list, which is updated weekly.